G'day everyone. Over the years I've been building a bit of a watch collection, and at one stage I suddenly realized that I'd been neglecting a particular well-known Japanese brand that's reputation lies with its lineup of divers. And of course I'm referring to Seiko. And after owning and flipping an SKX, there was a diver's void in my collection that needed to be filled. And when this particular model jumped up at me during an online sale, I couldn't say no to it. So without mucking around, let's get straight into a review of the Seiko SNE 557. So to begin with, we've got a case diameter of 44.7mm or 51mm with the case guard, lug tip to lug tip of 45.6mm, case thickness of 11.4mm, 22mm lug width, and it comes in at 96 grams with the rubber strap with a 200 meters of water resistance, and on top we've got a Hardlex crystal, and powering this whole thing is a Seiko V157 solar quartz movement. The design and presentation of this watch is one of its biggest. For me, this is the perfect watch to wear when going to the beach or hanging out in a casual setting. It's bright, colourful, a bit quirky but not completely insane, and still looks the business of a diver. It's the kind of watch that says, let's get the job done, but let's have some fun as well. And that's thanks to its predominantly dark blue colourway on its protective case and strap, along with contrasting red that beams back at you on the Pepsi bezel and the minute hand, so this is definitely not a boring watch. Surrounding the watch case is its removable plastic casing, which is designed to give better protection for the watch. It may not be the most attractive feature and it will show signs of its use for its purpose, but it is nice to have that feature. And if you don't like it, you can choose to either go without it or find an aftermarket choice. The bezel insert has a smooth matte feel and texture to it. Time will tell if it can stand up to wear and weather, but it does give the watch an interesting two-dimensional look to it, plus I don't have to worry about lume paint flaking off the numerals or markers. Moving into the dial, you've got a curved chapter ring with small rectangular Ds at each minute marker, with red coloured markers at each quarter-hour interval to provide a subtle touch of vibrancy. Further in, you've got the painted lume circular indices on every hour, except for the triangular 12 o'clock marker, which helps with orientation, and 4 o'clock, which is replaced with date complication. I love how they've included a thinly printed white square around the date window, as it makes the dial look a little more upmarket and gives more symmetry to the hourly markers. The lume handset in their shape is similar to what you'll find on most Seiko divers, with a shorter, chunky hour hand in silver, the arrow style minute hand in a very bright red, and a seconds hand with a dark blue colouring on the end of its lollipop counterweight. Despite their contrast, the colours on the hands really work in harmony with the rest of the watch and seem to improve upon what is already strong legibility. Powering this Tunican is Seiko's V157 solar movement. Seeing it in action doesn't get the heart racing, but as long as the dial gets a decent dose of sunshine on occasion, it'll run for much, much longer than a battery-powered quartz. And going back to the dial again, I love how Seiko have included that grey wave pattern. I suspect these form part of the solar panels, but they provide another interesting element to an already vibrant watch, and they blend in well with the rest of the watch so they're not overly distracting. And it's also great to see applied branding at this price point with the Seiko name, Prospect logo, and Patty text. The supplied rubber strap with Seiko branded buckle and metal keeper feels very sturdy and is very comfortable to wear on the wrist. The ridged ends near the lugs also have some pliancy to them, which prevents them from digging into your wrist. And if you don't like the strap, the 22mm lug width means you'll have no problems finding a suitable replacement, and the inclusion of drilled lugs will make changes a snap. And I also like how these stubbier lugs help to reduce the lug-to-lug length on this watch, making it a viable choice for those with slimmer wrists. The case back has a stamped Tsunami logo on it, along with the Seiko Prospex branding and other specifications printed along the side. The text will fade in time, but at least that cool wave will be around for a very long. And finally, you've got the lume. It's a Seiko, and unless you've only just started your foray into the watch world, you already know it's going to be good. You can see that even after half an hour, the hands and dial hang on strong, although the bezel does give up after its indicated 15 minutes. And this is a segue into my mixed feelings about this Seiko. It has very little in the way of versatility, and this isn't necessarily the watch's fault because it was built and designed for a purpose, but this is a watch that you wouldn't wear around the office and certainly not at a black tie event or anywhere that has a dress code above casual. The decision to only apply lume to the red 15-minute marker on the bezel may divide some people. I'm no diver, but I suspect if you're underwater and the minute hand goes over that 15 marker, or if you can't see the glowing bezel anymore, it's a sign you might want to come up for air. So it's got that practical element, but lume nuts or people that want to go underwater longer would appreciate having the entire bezel lumed. and those looking for a consistent lume color might be turned away by the C3 and BGW9 colors here. And while I appreciate how the date complication isn't too in your face, those that have poor vision will struggle to read it in low light, especially as the text is on the small side, and a black date wheel on a very dark dial background doesn't really do it any favors. The bottom of the dial with PADI, Solar, and Divers 200 meter is a bit of text overkill, although the text size is manageable and it's relevant to what it is and can do. The crown isn't signed, but then again, this is an entry-level prospect, so you can't expect that for the price. But on the plus side, the crown unscrews and threads well, and setting the date complication and time is easy enough, but that crown wobbles a bit too much for my liking. Maybe it's borrowing a leaf from the Vostok book, but I've never owned a Seiko before that's done that. So are there any negatives? Well, you betcha. The crystal is Seiko's proprietary Hardlex, and while they claim it's more scratch resistant than mineral, my example here would beg to differ. For the price and range in Seiko's lineup, I know I couldn't expect Sapphire, but it would have been nice to have had it. There's also a bit too much bezel play as well, where I can pull it back a full minute with little effort, and the side grip is too smooth and not toothy enough, which means you'll need a tighter thumb and finger grip to get that rotation going. And the plastic guard on the side makes it that bit trickier to get that grip and rotation and limits how far you can turn it on each spin. But at least you can remove that plastic shroud if it gets too annoying. And as much as I love the feeling and quality of the rubber strap, that keeper has an annoying tendency to slip more frequently than I like, making the strap end flap everywhere. Normally this wouldn't bother me, but when it happens several times in a day, it does get irksome to have to keep resetting that keeper. So overall, this is definitely an impressive dive watch that'll bring a smile to your face when you're wearing it. That fun design and colorway, that's really going to decide whether it's for you or not. If you're looking for a desk diver or something that can be worn places that aren't the beach or a barbecue, you'll probably give this one a miss. But if you want something tooly, something exciting, something reliable, and something active, this one's worth checking out. And if you've owned a Seiko tuner or Pepsi style diver watch, I'd be interested in your thoughts. But that's it for now, and thanks for watching, eh?